Good afternoon. My name is Hillel Neuer, the Executive Director of UN Watch. I'm standing here outside the United Nations Human Rights Council. We've just had a review of Iran's human rights record, its quadrennial review. It's something called the UPR. And I'm joined with Sohrab Ahmari. He's an editorial writer based in London with the Wall Street Journal. Sohrab, you've just come out of this review of Iran. Was there anything that struck you in particular of the session? Was there anything that you didn't expect at the session?
Thank you, Hillel. I suppose for me the most predictable aspect was to see dictatorships patting each other on the back. So, for example, North Korea praising Iran on its commitment to citizens' rights. You couldn't make this stuff up in fiction. It really strikes you to be in the room and see, Syria and Zimbabwe congratulating Iran's aggressive ayatollahs on their human rights record. What surprised me and I was taken aback by really was to hear some of the democracies that one expects to have better, to understand these issues better, like for example, India and Cyprus, both pretty much offered unreserved praise for the most human rights record. That was really disappointing because one looks to India as the world's most populous democracy, this rambunctious free press, this dialogue, free elections. For them to praise Iran, that was what was really disappointing.
And did you see certain democracies who impressed you? How did America do? How did the UK do? Canada? Did you see democracies that seem to be using their short one at a time in the proper way?
I think all three of the ones that you named did quite a great job. The U.S., I appreciate the fact that they named two dissidents, Jason Rezaian, the Washington Post correspondent in Tehran, who's been under arrest for 2 months now without charge and for no apparent reason, and an Iranian Christian pastor by the name of Saeed Abedini. Same thing with Canada, same thing with New Zealand, all strong statements, and yet because the majority, I would say, of statements were in praise or these bits of praise that don't make sense. So for example, so many member states said we praise Iran for setting up a center for women's rights. Well, just setting up a building and appointing a minister to be the institutional liaison for women's rights, that doesn't mean that this is not a country that still has stoning on the book for adulterers and actually carries out that punishment. So there's something institutionally that's wrong, even though individual member states like the United States, like Britain, like Canada make an admirable effort to use the institution to good effect to help improve human rights on the ground.
The Iranian delegation had a number of people who spoke. It was headed by a man named Mohammad Larijani, who's the head of human rights at the UN for Iran. And they also had a woman who spoke, who apparently is a member of parliament. One couldn't see anything except her face, she was all covered. And there were a couple of others. Were there things in the Iranian presentation that struck you as particularly comical or extreme? Were there things that you take away, remembering some takeaways from Iran's presentation?
There was so much. I mean, the mendacity and the just outright lies really, you can't even begin to unpack all of them because there's just so many. However, the two that struck me the most was, one, the question of the legal age for marriage in Iran. It is, in fact, in the books, it's 13, and if a court approves, then 9 is the legal age for marriage. And because that issue was brought up numerous times by a lot of the Democratic member states, Mr. Larijani, the head of the delegation, said, well, actually, the average age for most Iranian women get married at 25 or 30, and my own daughter, I've been telling her, you should get married at 20. Which is so condescending and insulting to Iranian women, and it doesn't address the fact, of course, because he knows that legally a 9-year-old can get married in Iran. The other one, he also said, we have Baha'i professors who are affluent, we have Baha'i students, and that I was sitting in a little corner where there were a lot of Iranian journalists and human rights activists, and that just the chuckles and the anger that statement elicited is very understandable, because in fact Iranian Baha'i are legally barred from attending colleges and universities. So those are the two where again, you feel like the institution is failing because the process, although it gives democratic states an opportunity to speak out, on the whole, you know, you can have a representative of the Iranian regime just come out in this prestigious forum. It's supposed to represent the highest ideals of mankind and say Baha'i can attend universities in Iran, and of course they can.
And one of the discussions that came up was Rehana Jabari, a woman who was executed on Saturday. Did you hear what the Iranians say? And anything there? He kind of said that he went to the family and he actually tried to get them to forgive, but they wouldn't because the West had done a media blitz.
Right.
And anything that struck you from that presentation on that issue?
It's this sort of obfuscation and you know, demagoguery and rhetorical gymnastics to try to defend the indefensible. In the case of that woman, they framed it, the Iranian regime at this presentation framed it as a matter of victims' rights. You know, we don't want to execute Jabari, but our system allows you know, the family of a murdered person to make that decision. And boy, we really tried. We didn't want to have this.
Who executed her on Saturday?
It was the Iranian regime. I mean, that's
because when I was sitting there, I heard him say, "I pleaded with the family not to do it because already one person's been dead, that their father, the woman who was killed, Rehana Jabari, said he tried to rape her, but and he said I pleaded with her, they didn't do it, and you know nothing I could do, and they said because of the Western media blitz and propaganda. But in the end, it was Iran who executed her.
Of course, and so you know this sort of system is the entire system is based on arbitrary detention, lack of due process, and Mr. Larijani, I'm sure, knows that. He understands, he's a smart guy, he knows that that's what the system is based on. And yet this system, the UN human rights system, allowed him to get away with this demagoguery.
In connection with that, he also started attacking the West. He said there's the West in the rescue trying to tell us how to do things. Was your sense that it resonated with some people in the room, that kind of rhetoric?
I mean, I'm sure it did. I couldn't watch the diplomats' reactions, but you know, certainly there is a block of countries that get satisfaction when that sort of view was aired to say, no, you know, there's no universal human rights. This is just a weapon wielded by the West against you know, states that resist the Western order.
Well, let me ask you, stop you for a second. He said we need multiculturalism. Do you think Iran practices multiculturalism? Do they respect the different cultures and Baha'is?
You'd have to ask Baha'is, you'd have to ask Iranians who dare convert out of Islam and become Christians who are subject to arrest, harassment, abuse. No, I mean, multiculturalism only in the most perverse sense of the word. And also, I mean...
Meaning that we have to let each regime around the world do their own persecution without holding it to any universal standards.
Exactly right, yeah.
You're Iranian, you were born in Iran. When you were a youngster, you had a particular incident where once you brought a video cassette to school of the film Star Wars and you were interrogated for that. What was it like as an Iranian being in that room? What was the experience like? How did you feel?
My emotions vacillated between red-hot anger. You know, you hear the Iranian regime and its representatives say outright you hear representatives of the Iranian regime say outright lies, like the fact that they said the Iranian Baha'i can attend post-secondary education. And then there was moments of laughter where you would have, you know, Zimbabwe say, we praise the Islamic Republic of Iran for issuing new textbooks. So it's a bit of anger and absurd laughter.
Got it. Anything else that you'd like to add from the experience today? Summarize.
I think really to look beyond this particular UPR and this issue of the Islamic Republic of Iran, I think what I saw, again, highlights the fact that we need United Nations reform and we need to reform the Human Rights Council because as it is, it's not working, and the process that I saw is an insult to the memory of all of the dissidents who have been crushed by these various regimes who now get to praise each other. And so I think that's the really ultimate lesson for me, that the UN Human Rights Council, as it is not working for the people it's meant to protect.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. Okay.